You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
We've got in studio with us today Warren Tidwell. He is the lead organizer with Hometown Action, which is a power-building collective here in Alabama fighting for working people. They've also been a sponsor of the show since our launch, so we're extremely happy to have the opportunity to talk with them today about their work. Before that, though, Warren, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? You know, you were born and raised right here in Alabama, but here you are, a community organizer for this kind of, kind of left-wing type group. So what happened? What happened here?
Welcome in, brother.
I'm glad to be here. Well, I tell you, I come from rural Walker County, Alabama. Born and raised there, spent most of my life there, and I now live in East Alabama. My grandfather worked in the coal mines. There's actually a monument in the mining camp with his name on it, the mining camp where my father was born. And my grandmother's worked in the textile mill, so I say that, I have coal dust and cotton lint in my DNA. It's where I come from. I grew up running shops, auto repair shops. I'm very definition of blue collar. And I spent a lot of time organizing disaster relief efforts at the grassroots level. And what that taught me was the power of people working together. Race, class, all of that went out the window when that happened. And so I did that for 20 years as a community organizer and didn't realize that's what I was doing. Right. But at the same time, it gave me an interesting view into the problems of the state and the potential of the people here when we do work together.
Well, that's great, and like I said, we appreciate you coming in. So can you tell us a little bit about Hometown Action, the organization? Like, how did the group get started? What do they, before we start talking about what y'all have got going on this week, just tell us a little bit about Hometown Action. How did it get started? What do y'all do?
Justin Vest started Hometown Action. He is originally from Alexander City, Alabama, and moved back here from Maryland after school to start an organization that, we want to focus on sustainable communities built through working class organizing and, leadership development at the local and state level to create opportunities for people in these small towns that wouldn't necessarily be there before. I often told Justin that was quite courageous of them to do that because it has created an opportunity for me to tap into the work that Hometown Action is doing because I share that passion of the organization of working with and for working class people. So over the last 2 to 3 years, came in as a volunteer for a while. We were able to get some grant funding to bring me on as a staffer, and I've been able to apply some of my talents through the organization that way and tap into some really neat things that we've got going on, specifically related to mutual aid to the COVID-19 response. We have, through our C3 under the umbrella of Hometown Action, Hometown Organizing Project, a mask-making project that started in East Alabama to get a small amount of masks made for people who were affected by the tornado in Beauregard back in March of 2019. There were 23 people killed there, unfortunately. As of now, our volunteers and organizers throughout the state have had a hand in making and distributing more than 60,000 masks from all the way up here in Huntsville to East Alabama, Montgomery, Tuscaloosa, meatpacking plants, a lot of the places, a lot of the working class folks who aren't getting the support of the owners of the companies that they need. Yep. We've had to step in and take care of some of that, and it's just been wildly successful because of the people who have stepped up and volunteered to take part in that.
Yep. And it's, it's important to point out and give props to Justin because a lot of times we have some well-educated people in the state, and there's not a lot of opportunities for them overall. And the fact that he stepped up and come back home, and built this organization, grassroots organization to help empower all of us, in the state. I think it really, and he's helped us. Hometown Action is definitely come to bat, supporting us financially and supporting us through mutual aid and sharing contacts and things like that. So him and Kathleen and you as well, there's a lot of great people over there.
I think that's a part of what will help change things here is we've got to have a lot of young folks coming home and helping out here and believing in the potential of these small towns and the people and the working class in these small towns.
Yep. That's the only way we're going to build opportunity. in the state is for people that actually build opportunity in the state, not to go outside and try to seek fame and fortune. There's nothing wrong with the fame and fortune, but, you know, we've all got roots here. Let's keep it there. That's kind of my opinion on it.
And we were talking before we went on the air about some of the problems that ostensibly left. I mean, it doesn't even necessarily have to be that, but like folks like us have with organizing in the South, because a lot of people that ostensibly have similar beliefs as us, they look at the South in a very classist way, and they look at us like a bunch of hicks who don't know any better, and they've got to be civilized, and they look at us like a pity project that they feel so bad for us, or they just outright hate us almost. I was talking about this one person that shared something about. It was literally just a picture of poor white people, and they were like, "Oh, look at these stupid racist folks." And like, there was nothing in the picture and this is an ostensibly like progressive, liberal, enlightened person. And what y'all are doing is so important, because this is rural, southern, small town, like roots deep here in Alabama. This is Alabama folks leading Alabama folks, helping Alabama folks. I mean, that's really great to me. I like seeing that. And
I think another important aspect of the work that I find that I'm really enthusiastic about with Hometown Action is the focus on not only the working class, but people of color, LGBTQ plus community, and women. And that is a lot. It's a most inhospitable environment. Mm-hmm. I often say we organize on the frontier of these things, but someone has to do it, and it has to begin somewhere. So to be a part of that effort is something I'm really appreciative of. I feel it's a privilege on my part to be a part of that. Mm-hmm. And the opportunities in the South are here. It's a two-front battle, as we discussed before, fighting for the change here that we want to see, but also convincing people outside of the South that these areas cannot be abandoned. This is what happens when we abandon them. That they become these very red areas. I mean, these very Republican areas and very conservative areas. And we need to be out there just talking to the people. And that simple thing is going to begin a lot of change here.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that actually brought me into the Hometown Action family was about, I don't know, it was 3 or 4 years ago. Somebody had shared a post. That was before I knew Kathleen, Justin, or anybody. Had shared a post with a lot of your folks out there supporting the LGBT community plus community somewhere in Montgomery. And, and I just thought, wow, I did not have any clue. And I've got several gay friends. There's a lot of folks around here. They get stigmatized. And even though, like most of the folks that I know, don't actively demean them, they don't go out and support them either, because it's kind of like, I don't want to be supportive of them because everybody might think I'm gay. Well, but y'all are taking that to a different level and showing that, you can be a redneck. You can be from Alabama and still be gay and you can be straight and love your gay brothers and sisters.
Well, that's the thing about it. For me personally, on a personal level, we're all human beings. Mm-hmm. And my work, I approach that from that standpoint first. And so I think the opportunity is not only that to tell people that, but to also empower people, to let them know that you're not alone here in this state, that we're here to work with, support you, and be there for you any way that we can in these small towns and rural communities where people often have to hide who they are and not be there.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. And you're not going to talk down to them. You're not going to make them feel less than for their education or lack thereof, or Southern accent or lack thereof. You're just like meeting folks where they're at, affirming them in who they are, and saying like, we're going to help each other moving forward. We're going to stand in solidarity with one another and help make each other's lives better.
Yeah,
and
make them feel like a human being.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's all anybody
right.
wants to be treated like.
At the very least, we all deserve that.
Exactly.
Very least.
Right. So, Warren, thank you for coming in. We're going to, on the other side of the break, Hometown Action has a week of action that they're going to be starting next week. So, on the other side of this break, we're going to be talking about that, what they're fighting against, what they're fighting for, what the specific actions that they are taking next week are, and how folks can join and help Hometown Action in this week of action. So stay tuned. You are listening to the Valley Labor Report. Tennessee Valley. This is the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host David Story. In the studio with us, we have Warren Tidwell, the lead organizer from Hometown Action, joining us all the way from Auburn, Alabama. Thank you for driving up this morning.
Him and his family. Yeah, thank them all.
That's a long
kid out in the car sleeping. I feel for you, brother.
Drive. That's a long drive. So we appreciate you making the trip out here. But I mentioned before we went to the break, y'all have a week of action that is starting this week. So just walk us through that. What is the thing that y'all are fighting against? What are you fighting for here? And what are the things that you are doing to fight in this week of action?
Hometown Action, in partnership with national organization People's Action, is calling for a week of action, a lot of action there, related to what we are calling the People's Bailout. And what that ties to is the response to this COVID-19 pandemic has been inadequate, to say the absolute least. And especially at the, for the average citizen resident of this state and this country. And so we've seen billions of dollars go to corporations in this country to bail out these companies, but very little is being talked about or done for long-term sustainable help for the people of this country. So what it does is it is calling for very specific things. Number one, health care guaranteed throughout this pandemic for people in dealing with it. And what we're seeing is that's just, of course, we've talked about it, that we can't even expand Medicaid in this state. But the call for that is vital because at this point in time, we can't even see our way through the beginning of this, regardless of the light at the end of the tunnel. Recurring cash payments would also be a part of that. And what that looks like is that keeps from sacrificing workers and other vulnerable populations to this. And in Auburn and a lot of small southern towns, and what I'm seeing, we're going to lose college football season to me is a foregone conclusion. It's not going to happen. That is a multi-million-dollar impact to our small town there. That's going to trickle down, and the working class folks are going to be the ones who are most affected by that. Yep. And so we need a massive response at the federal level to that. Along with that, a federal jobs program, specifically green jobs, sustainable jobs. The unemployment levels, and we're not talking about, it's like we're just pretending none of this is going on. As a people, it's like this virus isn't real, or these problems aren't as bad as they seem.
I do want to emphasize, like, when folks hear, these problems aren't as bad as they seem. You mentioned that, like, when folks hear people complaining about college football not being, not happening, like that. That is I just want to that's a big deal for the people in Auburn, for the people in Tuscaloosa. Like here in Huntsville, it's going to be like, oh man, I'm bummed I don't get to see Alabama play football on Saturday. But like for local economies that are in these colleges, that's a big deal. So I do want to emphasize that for the folks that aren't like in the sports community. Like that's a big deal. And
that's something that I often have to explain because outside of that, a lot of towns, Tuscaloosa and other towns have diversified a little bit in their workforce. But what we have in Auburn and East Alabama is we're in between Kia and Hyundai. So a lot of our suppliers are third-tier suppliers to the automotive industry. And what is one of the first things that people stop buying when the economy goes bad? New cars. So this is something that is looking like it's going to be a ripple effect for a long, ongoing time. So this week of action, to find out more about how you can get involved in this, number one, contact your senators. You can go to hometownaction.org. There's ways to get involved there. You can sign up. There's some ways for you to learn how to get involved with the organization and helping to push this. Because we can do this. If we can give billions of dollars to these corporations to prop them up time and time again, a lot of the younger generation are seeing that. They're saying, you're telling me we can't help our people, yet we are giving billions of dollars to these corporations. Right. This failure of leadership from the beginning to respond to this COVID-19 pandemic is going to needs swift and severe action, and now. And so that's where the week of action comes from.
Yeah. And it's worth pointing out the money that needs to flow into these unemployed places. There's a lot of folks like myself considered essential workers. Almost everybody's considered an essential worker now, but the pandemic isn't going away. It's increasing. I mean, I'm watching it daily in the state of Alabama, and it's going through the roof. People are going to start getting laid off again. There's a lot of people that's still laid off. There's a lot of people, servers, service industry folks that are absolutely struggling. The only thing that's getting them through right now is this added benefit to their unemployment.
Right.
Anybody that thinks that this is some kind of handout needs to recognize if you support small businesses, you need to support these unemployment benefits continuing, because that is the only way these small businesses in your community continue to operate, is if these people that are unemployed can continue spending money at the same rate that they always have. Whenever they quit spending money, all these businesses that's relying on that extra, they not to even consider the CARES Act where the businesses got money, but just the money that the workers that's unemployed right now are spending in the community is the only thing that's keeping America afloat.
Right, and you mentioned that a lot of folks have doubts about how serious this is, and you mentioned, and this made me think about it again, but this is something that I've said multiple times. You mentioned there was a tornado that killed 23 people, and the 2011 tornadoes, how many people did that kill? 12. People still, I can't remember, but people still talk about the April 27th, 2011 tornadoes. That is still,
it was hundreds throughout the state.
Hundreds died?
Yeah, it's a generational outbreak, and yes, it affected a great deal of the state.
And so many more people from that have died from the COVID-19 in Alabama. So many more people than have died in any single tornado, and folks are acting like, oh, this isn't real. Honestly, just think about that. If a tornado kills a dozen people or 24 people, it's news for weeks, and if it kills more than that, you remember it for the rest of your life. Okay? It's real and it's not going away, and we've got to think about how the government can help people, how we can force the government to help folks get through this.
A lot of people like to talk about support small business. Well, the first thing that's going to be the mom and pops.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's of course very sad. That's of course going to lead to more loss of jobs, and I fear it's going to be a spiral. And so that's what we're seeing is as these cases increase and our hospitals are filling up, we're seeing the statistics are there. And we haven't even gotten to cold and flu season yet. Right. And so
schools hadn't opened yet.
That's the thing that's going on right now is there's and of course, there's so much of that we have to worry about. But yeah, at the basis level, we need to take care of our people. Yep. And that's what the People's Bailout is about and the week of action.
And the week of action. And that's the biggest thing is we talked about it in the break. We got about 10 seconds left, but that's the biggest thing. People have become so apathetic about contacting their representatives. Look, folks, these are the people that represent you. Call them. Email them. It don't take but 30 seconds to call and make your voice heard. So that week of action is important.
That's right. Hometownaction.org, and you can find out more about it.
All right. Thanks, Warren. We appreciate you coming from Auburn. Thank you so much for coming in. Folks, stay tuned. You're listening to the Valley Labor Report. Thanks for tuning in, folks. We appreciate your time today. If you want to see what we're up to throughout the week, get our snide quips about the news of the day, then you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Valley Labor Report. We're on Twitter at Labor Reporters. I'm on Twitter at JacobM_AL. David is on Twitter at Radical Unionist. That's spelled RADICL Unionist. If you missed part of the show and want to go back and watch it later, you can search YouTube for The Valley Labor Report and subscribe to our channel. You can go back and watch the full show there, and we also clip segments throughout the week. And if you appreciate our work and want to help keep us on the air, consider throwing us a couple dollars a month on patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report.